Hello and welcome to the Mersey Sport Journal podcast, where we discuss all the latest sports news in Merseyside. I'm your host, Chris. Joining me today is Jess,
Hello.
Chris,
Uh,
Fraser,
Yeah.
Luke,
Hello.
Ewan,
Hello.
and Holly.
Hello.
It's been an important week once again for the two Merseyside clubs. Two massive wins for the mighty Everton against Bournemouth and Nottingham Forest, respectively. However, it's been an abysmal 7 days for the Red side Liverpool as back-to-back draws against newly promoted sides Sunderland and Leeds, accompanied with Mo Salah's damning post-match interview on Saturday, leaves Arne Slot's position untenable. And also, just coming in just as we were recording this, it's been reported that Mo Salah will not travel with the squad to Italy to face Inter Milan, and it's a decision that's been made by the board and Arne Slot. So more fuel has been added to the fire there. Luke, I'm going to come to you first. Obviously, the Mo Salah interview, with his being one of your best players, it's incredibly damning interview. How much do you think? Do you think his relationship with Slot has just completely broken down? And do you think it's sort of? Do you think this is sort of the beginning of the end for Salah at Liverpool?
Yeah, definitely. The relationship. I mean, Salah's come out and said, hasn't he, that he doesn't have one with Slot anymore. Which makes me think, how long's that been going on? Is that since the start of the season, or is that just since he's been dropped the last 3 weeks? But to make them comments is just stupid, really. I mean, there's no need for it, especially when Dom Szoboszlai's come out in his post-match interview and said, what happened in the changes stays in the changes. That's for the players to know and the manager. So for Salah to come out and speak like that about his manager and saying that he feels like he's being thrown under the bus when he hasn't been performing. He's been terrible this season, really. It's crazy.
And do you also think that Salah, as a senior player, Salah should have spoken up a lot earlier about Liverpool's position and how they're playing? Because Van Dijk's been doing that a lot, and there's often times where Salah tends to only talk about himself, like giving interviews about his contract situation or how he's playing. And he's also sort of picked the time right now where Liverpool is most vulnerable to come out with such a damning interview to make him look like he's the good guy.
Yeah, Van Dijk's the captain, so you could say that it's his duty to speak about the club and the form and everything in interviews. Salah doesn't really do interviews. The few times he has, they haven't been great. For example, he had one with Klopp before Klopp left, where he wasn't happy and he come out and spoke about it. Old Trafford away last year, he said he doesn't know whether this will be his last season at the club. But I don't think he's the type of person or player that's going to come out and speak to the public, to the journalists about the club's form. I just don't think he's like that. Whereas Van Dijk, he's your captain. The players look up to him. He's trying to rally the fans to get behind the players and get some confidence back within the group.
Yeah, and Holly, I'm just going to come to you now. Do you think that after like 10 games, only two wins in them 10 games, drawing to, like we said, Sunderland and Leeds, and then losing to Crystal Palace, Nottingham Forest, Brentford as well. Do you think this is sort of the end for Arne Slot? Do you think he can't come back from this?
Yeah, I don't think he can come back from this now. I think the two games that we played last Sunderland and Leeds, I think they were quite pivotal, really. I mean, he was given a lifeline when we beat a poor West Ham, because we did beat a poor West Ham. West Ham didn't do anything that game. He was given a lifeline there, and still nothing has changed. We're still playing the same players. Nothing's changed, and I think because of that interview, yes, on Saturday from Mo Salah, I think he has truly lost the dressing room, and I don't think he can get that back when Salah is such. Not that I agree with what Salah said, because I don't, but because Salah is such a senior player at the club, I think we're coming towards the end of that now. I don't think he can stay for much longer.
Yeah, and obviously, I mean, as an Everton fan, I'd love it if Slot just stayed at the end of the season, see how far he can sort of take them down. But a manager in that position obviously doesn't always is normally sacked by now, especially at a club like Liverpool. On Salah again, do you think that this news that's just come out about not being got into the inter squad and been shunned by Slot? Do you think that's a very telltale sign? It is the beginning of the end, and that Liverpool are sort of looking towards life after post Mo Salah?
Yeah, I do think, and I think we've been looking at life post Mo Salah since he signed the contract last year. I think I think that he knows that we are looking to replace him. I mean, there's plenty of rumours about us being linked with other wingers in the league. For example, Antoine Semenyo, we're pretty well linked with, and we're now quite linked because of this. We're quite linked with him to get him in January, and I think Mo Salah's aware of that. So yeah, I do think that Liverpool are currently looking for a life past Mo Salah.
And obviously, on the other side of Merseyside, Everton, after getting thrashed about by Newcastle on last Saturday, they bounced back with two big wins against Bournemouth and Nottingham Forest. Particularly the Bournemouth win. I don't think we've ever won at the Vitality in the Premier League. And obviously, uh, Sean Dyche coming back to Everton after being sacked and sort of not really sort of being given a massive beating. Fraser, how big do you think this is? Wins like this are for Everton, given the fears of maybe getting stuck into a relegation battle.
Yeah, I think massive. You look back at the previous seasons, and if you were to win, you'd be scraping the wins. You'd be like it may be like a 2-1. You wouldn't really see a team like an Everton team like this perform how they do, because as right now it looks like a strong team. Looks like a team that knows how to play with each other, knows how each other's gonna like which runs are gonna take, and players like Njai, Dewsbury Hall, they dominate your attack, and they perform. They get the goals. They get what you've needed the past couple of years, and it showed against Forest.
Yeah, and obviously a big player for us has been Iliman and Jai, who's arguably our best player. And after next week's game with Chelsea, he'll be off to AFCON along with Idrissa Gana Gueye, who we have sort of been missing for a few games, so we've sort of been able to deal without him to an extent. How big a loss do you think that'll be? Because other players are going to have to come in and step up now.
I don't think Idrissa Gana Gueye is going to be as big of a loss as Njai would be. Gana Gueye, you can get someone else in to replace him, whereas Njai is a one of its own player. You've got players like McNeil and Tyler Diblin on the bench, but they've not got quite the same. They're not the same as Njai. But like Diblin, he can come in, prove himself. He's a 40 million signing for such a young player. Some people thought maybe that was too much for him, and then with Njai going to AFCON, this could be his moment to try and prove them wrong, prove that they were right to spend 40 million. And hopefully for the Everton fans, he can put in performances and get a first team spot.
Obviously, you're right. Maybe it is time for the world's most expensive bench warmer to finally make his bow in the Premier League. And obviously, we're given that Alcaraz sometimes can play in that midfield as well. But obviously, Tranmere didn't play this weekend with it being the FA Cup second round, but they did have an important win last Thursday against Grimsby Town away from home, a 2-1 victory. That's pushed them away from the relegation zone, pushed them clear of that sort of Newport, Cheltenham, Bristol Rovers, Shrewsbury cluster. Obviously, Chris, you know Grimsby quite well. How big of a win was that for Tranmere? Because obviously Grimsby, they're a tough team to break down. They've beat United this year, and they're always typically near the top of League Two.
Yeah, for Tranmere, it's a spectacular win because we've been out of form somewhat of late up at Grimsby. And speaking to a couple of mates who did go to the game and see what Tranmere did, it's a very good win for them. They played us off the park by all accounts. And the goalkeeper, by the way, was 43 years old and seems like he had the performance of his life, only keeping us out and keeping us out from scoring. So for Tranmere, they need to just keep up the performances and stay away from the bottom of the league, because if they get trapped in that relegation battle, it's going to be a very long season for them.
And how big is it for Tranmere not to go down into the National League and out of the AFL? Because you've been there, Grimsby have been there themselves, had a couple of years down in the National League. How tough is it to get out that league? Because there's a lot of teams you can just get trapped in there, stuck there forever.
Yeah, it's quite a challenge to get straight back up. We've been lucky with the last two times we've been back down there. We have come back up within like the first couple of years. But for Tranmere, considering the amount of funding that isn't going into the club, as I say, they've had a 43-year-old starting in goal for them over the last couple of weekends. It could be quite a challenge for them to come and bounce back up straight away. And with there only being 2 promotion places in the National League, they don't want to be stuck down there for long.
Yeah, obviously, big times ahead at Tranmere Rovers once again this season. We're going to move on now to our one of our match reports that we've been doing from one of our local amateur clubs, and that amateur club is Vauxhall Motors, who are based in Ellesmere Port and play in the Northern Premier League West Division. Fraser, you went down to the 3-3 draw with Bury a couple of weeks ago. How well do you think they did in that game, and do you think that they're going to be candidates for promotion once again?
Yeah. It's 3-3. It sounds an entertaining scoreline. It was in some aspects of the game. It was entertaining, but for the majority of it, it was mainly just a possession-based pass and play style that both teams were trying to break down. It was the defence did leak a couple of chances that should have been put away from Bury. Bury are a team that have come back down the football leagues due to the financial difficulties, and I think Vauxhall's performance against them proved that the Motors can be promotion candidates. They should be considered tough opponents. So other teams should be worried about them. But I think their danger lies more in the back line because there's no links there. They kind of just like think that the other people will be there, but there's none. It's mainly the attack that keeps them in the games and keeps them focused and gets them actually to the top of the table.
And yeah, obviously they are third at the moment as well, 5 points behind leaders Lower Breck, who have come up from the division below, and another Liverpool-based club. Do you think that they'll be able to get across the line this year and get promoted? Because obviously last year, I remember from when Widnes FC were in the league, they came agonisingly close to getting promoted on the final day and going up automatically, and then missed out in the playoffs.
Yeah, I think there's a slight chance. There's obviously teams behind them that have games in hand, so they've got to be worried about that. They've got to make sure that they win their games from now, or at least win or draw. They can't afford any losses at this point. If they lose, and they could tumble down probably to ninth, 10th, and then lose all footing in the promotion race. I think with the teams behind them that have the games in hand, they can they cause a worry, and it can throw teams off. So I think if they just keep their heads down, focus on their own games, they should have a good chance of getting promoted.
Well, thanks very much for that, Fraser. So our next order of business is in regards to Paddy Pimblett, who will be headlining the first UFC event on Paramount following the new broadcast deal, as he challenges Justin Gaethje for the interim lightweight title at UFC 324 in January of next year. And Chris is going to discuss this with me now. So, Chris, how big a fight is this for Paddy Pimblett?
Yeah, it's Pimblett's first real big test in the UFC for me. It's his first title fight in any MMA promotion since he left Cage Warriors as well. But he's against someone in Justin Gaethje who's now getting in the latter stage of his career, 35, and for him it's his last proper title fight in my opinion for Gaethje. So Pimblett will have to be really up for it if he wants to get the glory.
And do you think he deserves to get a fight like this? Because obviously he's a big media staple of UFC, especially in this country. But do you think he does deserve to be in a big fight like this?
I think the matchmakers have given a great chance here. Whether he deserves it, me personally, I do not think so. I think it should be Arman Sarukian fighting for the belt. But obviously, because Topuria's had to step away for personal reasons, Sarukian can't get the belt, the title shot straight away. So for Pimblett, it's a great chance to become interim champion and then maybe face Topuria or Arman in the coming summer months.
And how much do you think this will inspire the future generation of fighters in Liverpool? Because obviously you've had Meatball Molly, who came up about the same time as Paddy Pimblett, and Luke Riley from Widnes, who had his first UFC fight a couple of weeks ago. So there is a lot of more local interest in UFC and combat sports than there ever has been before.
Yeah, I think it's probably one of the most growing sports in the area, MMA, UFC. So, and as you said, there's been a couple of local lads who've just fought on the UFC Qatar card, Shamrock and Luke Riley. One lost and the other one won. So for the area, I think it could be huge to have the first UFC champion from Liverpool, and only I think the fourth or fifth British MMA champion in the UFC as well. So for the area, it could really get more drive, and we could hopefully see again a UFC event come to Liverpool once more after he wins or may win.
And how do you sort of fancy his chance in the fight? Because, like you said, Getch's he's a tough cookie. He's not going to just lie down and get his head kicked in.
Yeah, no, Gaethje is a veteran now in the UFC. He's 35 and 26 wins to 5 losses, and he's had interim title fights before, so it's not going to be easy for him. And he's coming off a great win against Rafael Fiziev as well. So for Pimblett, I think the main goals would be to get him on the ground early, and I could see Paddy Pimblett submitting him in round 3 to win the interim belt.
Well, thanks very much for that, Chris. Next up, we're going to be discussing our backgrounder article, which is one of the main feature articles on our website, and it is all about wheelchair sports in the area. I'm going to bring Ewan in now, who's going to discuss about Liverpool Basketball Club. So, Ewan, how much funding did the club get, and how difficult is it to sort of for them to finance themselves?
It's sort of the wheelchair basketball division of Liverpool Basketball Club. Their funding sort of comes on a trickle down system from the main club itself. So any profits that the club makes in general get split, and obviously a portion of that will go to the team for hiring out training facilities, things like that. The chairs are the main cost of everything that you've got to do with in terms of playing or training. Really, they cost anywhere from £2,000 to £3,000 because you've got a specialised sports chair to play the game. Repairs cost a lot as well. I spoke to Jake, who is the player manager for the team, ex GB athlete as well. And it was about £800 for a small replacement band in the chair, and that was all self-funded. So they don't really get a lot in terms of finances from elsewhere, really, to support the club.
And how much does that sort of affect new members coming in? Because I can imagine it's quite hard, particularly when there's people who coming in with where they can't fund the correct equipment for the wheelchairs and all that.
Yeah, it is. It's really difficult. It's sort of non-existent, really, in the short time that I've spent with them, having new people come in because of the cost of chairs. People who want to go and try it out are not going to go and spend that amount of money in case they don't like it. And the club aren't going to spend that amount of money if they won't get people in through the door to play. So it's sort of at a complete standstill. They have to rely on charity events, fundraisers, organisations, that type of thing, to raise money in order to get chairs for new people to join the team.
And does the club offer in terms of maybe like do they have to go to like a more competitive angle, or is it just merely recreational?
They are competitive. They are in a league. They are in the North. I think it's the North Wheelchair Division. So they travel up and down the country. They do play. The training sessions are sort of split. It's about 2 hours long, split between. There's an hour of sort of tactics, focused, shape, passing patterns, that type of thing, and then the last sort of hour, half an hour is recreation. It's a bit of fun. It's a group of people getting together, shooting, just doing what they really like. It's an escape, really. That's what they treat it as.
Well, it wasn't just Liverpool Basketball Club we went down to. We also went to the Wheelchair Tennis Club over in the Wirral, and Holly, you went down there. Is there sort of similar issues in terms of funding and financing as Liverpool Basketball Club have? They sort of find it tough to finance themselves?
Yeah, they do. They do. They pretty much do the exact same as what the basketball club do. They just use their revenues and their profits from they have like a clubhouse, so like any profits that they make from there, they'll pass down because the tennis club has actually bought, I think it's about 5 or 6 chairs, um, that are adapted to play tennis and to fit into the specific courts that they've got at the tennis club. They've paid for them all out of pocket themselves. They don't have any additional funding, and that's just purely so that they can have more members to play and participate in wheelchair tennis.
And do they find it quite hard to get new members in with like the funding issues they have?
Yes, because they've got very little ways of getting the word out there or promoting it themselves because they just don't have the time or the resources to do so. So it's mainly at the minute from what I was speaking to Becky at Thorndale Tennis Club, who coaches it. She basically said it's pretty much just word of mouth at the minute. Any members that do come in, they will tell anyone else that they think that would like to get into wheelchair tennis. It's pretty much just word of mouth at the minute.
And what path do they offer? Any sort of pathways towards sort of like competitive professional tennis, like maybe towards like wheelchair tennis tournaments in the ITF or stuff like that?
At the minute, it's very, very limited because, like I said, they just simply do not have the resources on top of buying the actual wheelchairs and all the adaptations to the wheelchairs themselves. They just simply don't have the resources. But for other tennis clubs on the world, they do. They are obviously they offer training sessions just like in house with the tennis club themselves. They also offer like to play against other players of wheelchair tennis at other tennis clubs on the world. So there's a couple. There's Heswell, I'm pretty sure, who do it alongside Thorndale as well.
Well, thanks very much for that. Now we're going to move on to talk about another one of our articles in the on our website regarding Liverpool John Moores' Liverpool Running Club, which is a running club open to all, very inclusive, open to all, both men and women, and even holds women-only sessions. So, Jess, I'm going to bring you in on this one. What are these sessions sort of like?
They're very inclusive. So the Run Club itself has grown from only a handful of members to over 100 with just a year, and it's mainly because they're so inclusive with ability, and they're just a community that really wants to make everyone feel welcomed.
And obviously, like we said, we've got women's only sessions. How what are these sessions sort of like? How many do they get? Like a good amount of people going to them?
Yeah, so a lot of people didn't really feel welcome just in an all gender run club, so they started doing women sessions, and that's what really like boosted their participants in the run club. They've like nearly doubled because of the amount of women that want to join.
And how big, how good are these women's only sessions in terms of keeping people safe? Because I know a lot of women, especially around this time, but it's getting darker, they don't really want to be running out late at night, and they also have a few fears of maybe getting attacked, particularly when they're running on their own.
Yeah, it really gives them a safe space. So there's a lot of girls that run. The charity officer who I've spoken to, she is on the runs, and some of the other committee members are also on the runs. So they do groups within paces. So everyone's got someone who's keeping them safe, making sure that they're not getting run over or getting attacked or anything like that. And it really just gives the girls a safe space where they feel welcomed by people that have the same interests.
Well, thanks very much for that, Jess. So we're going to go on to our last order of business, which is regarding the PDC World Darts Championship, which starts on Thursday. Luke Littler is, I say headline, and he's on second last on the evening session against the Lithuanian Darius Labanauskas. And we've also got the Buddy Boy, former world champion Michael Smith, playing Lisa Ashton in a local derby. So Chris, I'll bring you in on this one. What's it? How big a game is this for Littler? How much is he sort of approaching it? Because he's had a really good year. There's the pressure. He's got to defend finalist money from 2 years ago, and he's also got the lure of this £1 million going to the winner. But with these short format games, it's very easy for players to get caught out.
Yeah, for Littler defending now, obviously ranked number 1 in the world and defending all that money, it could be a tricky little game for him, especially if he lets a couple legs go early, which we see him do last year when he was slipping up at times, maybe letting the pressure get to him But for Labanowskis, if there was ever a time to cause a major upset, it'd be now on the first day of the World Championships and knock out the reigning world champion and the reigning world number one.
And well, yeah, Labanowskis, he's not a stranger to these big tournaments. He beat Barry Van Barneveld in his first ever event, and he also got to the quarterfinal a few years back as well. And obviously, we've seen Littler last year in his first game against Ryan Meikle slip up, lose the first set, and look a bit dodgy in parts. But Michael, like I said, Michael Smith's also played on that first night. He's had a lot of issues with injuries, arthritis, and he's not played in the Grand Prix or the Grand Slam or the match play, sorry. And he's also when he played the Grand Slam, he sort of looked like he was moving okay, but in my head at the Players Championship Finals, he seems to look in pain again. Which version of Michael Smith do you think we're gonna see?
I think we're not going to see the bully boy we all want to see from 3 years ago now in that amazing final against Van Gerwen. I think that bully boy is gone, unfortunately, with all the injuries and now his arthritis as well, really starting to affect his games. So I think Leisha Ashton might cause a huge upset here against Michael Smith. I think she might win.
A big upset on the first night, eh? There's also the bullet, Stephen Bunting, who is sort of started the year off quite well. He's been out of form recently. They had a poor Premier League campaign. He's gone out early in a couple of the majors, facing the talented young Pole, Sebastian Bialeski, who it definitely certainly won't be a pushover. So, Luke, do you think this is a potential banana skin for Bunting, considering they were the short format and how good Bialeski's been this year?
Yeah, it could be. Bunton, he had a decent run last year in the PDC. He is a fan favourite. The fans are always going to be on his side. But first round, anything could happen. All it takes is a couple of mistakes and your opponent to capitalise, and then next thing you know, you're out.
And you've also got Dave Chisnell, he's really been struggling recently. He's just not found any sort of consistency. Looking like he could potentially drop out the top 32 soon as well. He's facing off against the Queen of the Palace, Fallon Sherrick, who, although she's a fan favourite and the crowd get behind her, she's sort of had a few inconsistencies. She's sort of, like Chisnell, offers chances up to players. How do you see this one sort of faring?
I think it'll be a tough matchup, but I think Sherrick might just edge it. I don't know why. I've just got a feeling that she's going to do all right this year, and she's going to have a fairly decent run.
And then finally, there's also a few other players here as well who could challenge. You've got Luke Humphreys, who'll be looking to win his crown back that he lost last year. Michael Van Gerwen, hoping to get back some form of glory. Got a nice little section as well to get through. You've also got Danny Noppert, who's been in the form of his life, made 4 semi-finals this year, hoping to get in the Premier League. Jan van Veen as well, the European champion, can do bits. And you've also got some other young players like Bradley Brooks from Blackburn, who can certainly do some stuff as well. So I'm going to come to you first, Chris. Who would you sort of say is your dark horse, or someone who could probably potentially come up and push the big boys?
I think it's one of the names you mentioned. I'm backing Gian Van Veen to have a really good run at the championships this year. I think the rivalry will serve the next 5-10 years of him and Littler. That's going to be the big main one. Now, we've seen him in the youth championships battling for a while, and obviously at Butland a couple of years ago as well, they had a cracker of a final there. So for me, Gian Van Veen's going to be the one to look out for, definitely.
And what about you, Luke?
Yeah, I agree with Chris. I think he's had a good year. I think he could go far in this tournament.
Yeah, and obviously the World Championship starts on Thursday at 7:00 live from Alexandra Palace. So that's it for this week. Next week we'll continue to review the recent games from Liverpool and Everton. Liverpool obviously got that Champions League game in midweek against Inter Milan, and Everton travelling to Chelsea. All those games, the last games that those clubs will play before the AFCON, before the certain players go off to AFCON, and we'll also be reviewing what sort of happened so far this year's World Championship, see if some of the local heroes have managed to make their way through to the second round and move one game away from coming back after Christmas. So until then, we'll see you next time.